new members, my name is Dr.Nima Rahmany. I'm a chiropractor transformed into a mental optimization coach, and I help people who are transitioning in their relationships and career become powerfully aligned, because you go from stressed, depressed, and anxious in this transition. By following a few key steps, you can become powerfully aligned and on purpose, and clearing past resentments and getting yourself to the next level. This is basically what I love to do. So I had some questions regarding confidence and questions regarding relationship stress and trauma and that kind of thing, and breakdowns in relationships. So I wanted to do a Facebook Live for you guys and to answer it, and maybe do a Q&A. I'm going to give a couple of seconds for you guys to jump on board and let me know where you're signing in from. It's really amazing to see all of the new members that are coming from all over. There's been some from live talks that I've done around the world. There have been some who've been at my workshops and seminars, and I just, what I love doing is helping people uncover their truth, clearing out their past resentments and regrets. And then all of a sudden, what emerges is a human being who's really connected to the highest version of them. So we're going to get started right away. And this post, first of all, let me know where you're tuning in from. This post, first and foremost, was inspired by a client call that I had this morning. And he's an 19-year-old entrepreneur struggling with anxiety and depression. And when I spoke to him in the beginning, it was as though his voice wasn't even coming out. It was very shy. He was having breakdowns, and so in his work, and it was impacting his business. He wasn't making a lot of money because he would see clients, and then when he would get into confrontations, instead of stepping up and actually handling it and serving the customer, instead what he would do is he would run and hide, and he would go to sleep. He wouldn't even wake up in the morning. He would just be completely bedridden. And so when he called us, he's struggling with the anxiety of entrepreneurship, transitioning from where he was as a student into entrepreneurship. So as we worked with him, I just noticed, it's been a few months, I said, where are you getting this confidence? Have you noticed that your voice is back? You have this incredible connection and power with your voice and this confidence. And so most times when people want to get confidence, they will do this fake it till you make it, or they'll take courses and seminars that talk about, changing your posture, or just kind of like affirmation work and everything like that. And all of them have merit. They all have something that you can take that will help you kind of chip away at the confidence game. But what we did was completely different. And it's the course that I teach, this Powerfully Aligned Mastermind group that I have. I don't teach specifics on confidence. However, when you get authentic and real and restore integrity with the relationships that you have had break down in your life, what emerges is a genuine, authentic feeling of confidence. When you have relationships, I want you to think, if you are struggling with any area where you're struggling with low self-esteem, consider that there's two main factors that I'm going to share with you. And the first one I just mentioned is, if you have breakdowns in relationships, breakdowns with your clients, breakdowns with past stories in your relationships of marriage, if you're going through a separation, if you have anything that has broken down and you know that you had a part to play, or you're wondering if you had a part to play, not restoring that integrity of a relationship breakdown is a major cause of low self-confidence and low self-esteem. In this case of my client, he basically had 3 or 4 clients that he just kind of let fall by the wayside, and he didn't serve them properly. And instead of going back and owning his part and not and making it right, he was afraid of confrontation. So by not confronting it, he fell further and further into isolation and crawled into that hole, anxiety, depression, self-judgment, and what I call the dark passenger, which is that little voice that says, you're not worthy of love, you're not good enough, starts to rage on you. And you start to feel depressed. And then you start to isolate yourself from other people because those relationships haven't been restored. That integrity hasn't been restored. We have this really interesting mechanism within our psyche that when you are complete and whole with other human beings in your life, you feel whole and complete within yourself. And when there's brokenness because of past resentments, something that's happened, and you haven't owned your part, stepped up and shared where you've been inauthentic, then chances are that's going to eat up your confidence. So what we had him do, which wasn't easy, was to go back to make a list of all the clients that he was not in integrity with, and he restored it. And believe me, he averted it. I'm a coach. I'm that ass kicking type of coach, and so I didn't really let him off the hook. We were pushing him and pushing him and pushing him. When he reached out and then restored that integrity within those relationships, especially at work. Now I'm talking to him, and all of a sudden I'm like, where's this confidence coming from? Where do you think? He goes, it's because I completely restored all the integrity in those relationships. So that's number one way for you to restore that and get your power back and get your confidence. And when you get it right, you get connected to a feeling of power because you now feel whole and complete within yourself. When you speak up, your voice is there, which leads me to my second point. If you are feeling like you're not able to speak and voice yourself, think of a relationship that you aren't able to speak up for yourself. Think of a work situation where you're not able to. It's vodka, by the way. Think of a relationship where you're not able to, at work, for example, where you're feeling a loss of power or a low self-esteem. And I guarantee you, every single time I work with somebody in that situation who's struggling with a transitional anxiety and feeling that stress and that depression, it's because of guilt. So my client today that I was working with was dealing with low self-esteem and chronic anxiety. She just felt this constant state of panic. And what I've observed is that panic and anxiety isn't really a condition. It's just misplaced resentment, guilt, shame, abandonment, rejection, all of the above or a variety. And without peeling back those layers and becoming powerfully aligned with your true highest value, your North Star, you become susceptible to this low self-esteem and lack of confidence. In her case, she had an abortion 20 years ago. The guilt from that abortion, she was beating herself up constantly. So how are you talking to yourself when you have a guilt from far away, from long ago? I want you to think of a time in your life where you're holding on to a guilt. And these are big things. So if you went through an abortion, if you went through, and I'm not saying abortion is right or wrong. I'm not making a comment about the validity or the rightness of it. I'm talking specifically from a mental and a health standpoint of confidence and anxiety. If you're holding on to a shame and a guilt, guess what? You're unconsciously attacking yourself. And guess what she ended up having a few years ago? She started to get cancer. She was diagnosed with cancer, which she's getting some doctors, some functional medicine on, but she hasn't been dealing with the emotional component. It was presenting itself as anxiety and a lack of confidence. So what we did on our session today is we went back, and I'm going to give this to you. Whatever you're feeling guilty about, you want to look at the words, 3 words, at the time. And at the time when she was 20 years old and she got knocked up from this guy that she wasn't 100% sure about, who was broke, and she was working 7 days a week and she couldn't afford to sustain it, and she wasn't sure about this guy, she made the call at the time. Now, there's benefits and drawbacks of everything that we do, but this entire time she'd been telling a guilt story that she's unworthy of love because of it. And so as we chipped away on our 90-minute session, it was hard. lot of tears, but she shed this complete release of emotions, and she saw why she had cancer too. Cancer became a distraction from the guilt. So if you're dealing with a chronic illness, you want to look at the underlying emotional root causes. And it always has to do with anxiety, always has to do with values, always has to do with confidence. These stories of our lives and the guilt that we're beating ourselves up about is an unconscious strategy to distract ourselves from guilt, get us to feel love and acceptance. And for the first time, when she got that diagnosis, she quit smoking and gave herself permission to love herself and work on herself. That's why she called me and hired me and my team to be able to help her dissolve that guilt. Guess what happens after her session? I was like, so where's your low self-esteem? Where's your guilt? She goes, oh my God, I feel so much lighter. I have time to process, because we took a 20-year belief that I'm a horrible person. We turned it on its head, and now she feels this incredible sense of power, and I look forward to seeing her transformation. She started in the program about 2-3 weeks ago, and she just had her first session, and it was mind-blowing. And so the goal was to dissolve the guilt. And once you dissolve that guilt, all of a sudden your self-esteem rises. So consider, if you have a lack of power, if you're not able to voice something and you're not able to speak up and speak your truth, chances are you're holding on to guilt and shame, and it's critical that you dissolve that. So how to have true confidence: number one, dissolve the guilt and shame, and number two, which was restoring integrity in all the relationships. So, which basically brings me to the next question that I've been having in the thread in the group, The Art of Powerful Alignment, when I asked, what questions do you guys have? How may I be of service? What happens when I'm in a relationship with coworkers, family, and they are constantly playing victim, or they're constantly being triggered? How do we respond to somebody who's constantly playing that victim role? And the answer is, you got to first determine in your own mission and vision statement who you are to be for that other person. And you got to be consistent and 1000% clear within your own mindset who you want to be for that other person. Because if you come in there and you think that everybody else should see things your way, nobody should get triggered, nobody should play victim, nobody should have their own dark passenger, you're living under a delusion. It's not for you to fix other people. It's for you to, the way that you help transform another person is by doing the work yourself and deciding who you would love to be for that other person and holding your ground. And sometimes that is to challenge them into the higher version of themselves and offer them something, a greater perspective. Other times it's to support them, so you got to decide who it is you love to be. I mean, I go to my parents' place, and my mom loves to talk about what's going on in the community. And so sometimes she shares, what's happening. And sometimes she speaks positively about people. Sometimes she speaks negatively about people. But if I expect her to never get triggered, to never play victim, when she does, I'm living in a delusion that she should be powerfully aligned in her life. Well, guess what? Not too many people, other than the people in this group, other than my clients, are working on emotional mastery. So removing the belief that they should be stable is a great way for you, when they are behaving in the ways that they do, to be of service to them. And not by coddling them, not by buying into their story, but by holding space for them to empty. Sometimes just being there, I look at my relationship with Amanda, sometimes just telling her you're playing a victim story isn't going to be of service to her. But by sitting there, listening, and this is what I cover in module 5 in powerful ninja tactics in relationships, in communication, is simply by repeating back to the other person what their complaint is, dissolves about 80% of their challenge. So simply by, and you can look this up, the book by Chris Voss. It's called Never Split the Difference. He's a FBI hostage negotiator. So this is a guy who's an expert in communicating with very hostile situations. And so I read his book, and his challenge basically is to simply, by repeating back The complaint, without making any meaning of it, does wonders. I'm going to give that as a gift to you guys, is that basically I go into the details and covering that in module 5 of the Powerfully Aligned program, where I teach these ninja tactics of communication. But that's exactly what it is. That's the start of it, is simply repeating back when somebody's triggered, when somebody's playing victim, to simply repeat back their sentiments from their perspective dissolves a complaint and an emotional charge almost completely. Give that a shot. That is fantastic. And Luigina asked a question regarding, how to clear emotional traumas that are physical problems that are emotional related. Well, luckily you're in the Powerfully Aligned program and you just enrolled, and we are going to actually teach that to you. There's a process I do using the overview method, which is a process I came up with that helps you take past resentments and stories of resentment and guilt and grief and trauma and turn them into your highest values, into your light, into seeing what was once in the way that was actually on the way. Those of you who are wanting to learn how to do this, I do this in live trainings. In June, we are in Montreal, first weekend of June. Send me a private message. We're going to show you people over a weekend. We clear all resentment stories, all traumas that are holding you back. We clear it within a 48-hour period. I show you live how to do it for yourself. Or in Vancouver in July 8th weekend, go to drnima.com/events. If you want to go drnima.com/events, you can get registered and check /events. Sorry about that. Check that out. And that's basically, how I do that in those in live trainings for those people who just want to get their feet wet and understand how they can apply the overview method in their lives. But those of you who are actually serious about completing this, clearing up the guilt, getting your confidence back so that you can show up more powerfully, make more money, really transition powerfully in your relationship with this, should I stay or should I go, that tends to happen when you're not aligned, into getting yourself to the point where you are 1000% certain of who you are, not only for yourself, but for other people. So you can be a stand for others and then create this ripple effect and be the greatest version of yourself for others. Just go to that link right under there and apply. And we have a couple spots left. I'm completely booked solid over the next few days with a couple spots left for you. If you're actually interested in what I do is you fill out a form after you schedule, and we find out exactly what's going on, what's in the way, what are you transitioning, and then you write me your shitty first draft so that I can actually get on the phone with you and see if this is something that we can actually transform. It's quite exciting, and it's not for everybody. It's for those who are brave enough, who are ready to jump in, who are ready to tell the truth and to get themselves powerfully aligned so that they can actually start doing what they love from where they're at and make a full-time job doing what I'm doing, like make a full-time job doing what you love so that you can be of service to other people. So I'm about to jump on a call right now. However, I'm going to open the floor for any questions. Are there any questions? Has this been useful to you guys? I see where you're tuning in from. Show your any comments, any questions that you have. Send me a private message. I would love to do a Facebook Live every single day answering your questions in between my client calls to be of service to you guys. I get a lot of personal private messages with questions. And what I say is if you really want them answered and want them solved, we can get on the phone and clear it or see if it's clearable and see if you're ready to actually start feeling better and get that answer you're looking for from your transitional anxiety between where you're at and where you'd love to be in your relationship. Or I could do a Facebook Live and serve you that way, because that's another great way. Because if you're going to ask me a question, I'm going to ask you to ask everybody so that I can make this something of value for everybody. So that Facebook can be used not just for wasting time, but to better yourself. So clear resentment, clear the guilt, restore integrity. And then, at the end of the day, don't do it alone. Get help from a mentor. You got to invest in a mentor and really look at ways where you can shortcut that healing process and growth process, because we're going to all die someday. And it's really important for us to go to the point where we can actually Hey, Natasha, what's up, girl? I remember you. You're one of my patients when I was working at Westgate Wellness Center. It's nice to have you. I'm glad that you got something out of it. Yeah, so, lean in. Send me a private message. Let me know what is going on, and I would love to answer you in this group. Until next time, I'm going to sign off if there are no questions. If there's nothing of pertinent inquiry that you have, then I'm going to say so long, sayonara, and we'll see you at the next perfect time. God bless.